Today, I'm gonna become a shiny dragon gym leader in Pokemon Violet. That means I'm gonna be starting from the bottom and building the strongest team of dragons in the world to prove that once and for all, yes, shinies are stronger than normal Pokemon. And as if shiny hunting for a bunch of super powerful dragons wasn't hard enough, I'm also gonna be doing this challenge as a hardcore Nuzlocke with all kinds of ridiculous rules on top to make it even harder. Will we be able to become the strongest dragon trainer the world has ever seen and take the champion title as our own? Let's find out. We begin the game and choose our starter Quaxley, who wipes the floor with Nimona and Arven. Unfortunately, he isn't a shiny or dragon type, he's gotta go. So I make my way downtown, beat up some more bullies, and pass 4 years worth of grad school in a nanosecond. I was itching for a chance to ditch Johnny Bravo, so I set my sights on getting my first shiny over in Southwest Cortando. I wanted to catch a Gibble, so I speed ran my way over to a mysterious cave nearby and made a sandwich. Because Gibble is partially a ground type, I made the old Daddy Q special to boost the spawn rates for ground type Pokemon. If I really wanted to, I could also boost the rates for dragons with an avocado sandwich, but that would also increase the spawn rates for Bagon, and we don't want that because Bagons only spawn here at level 16. And that won't do because I was gonna fight Katie right after this, so of course the level cap was only 15. So I spent what felt like an eternity running back and forth between the caves doing the eye test of trying to actually see a shiny Gibble, and eventually, after hours and hours of labor, I finally encountered our first shiny dragon boy. The mediocre ham sandwich had done its job, but I can't say the same for my Switch because it kinda crapped out here at the most crucial time, which effectively turned the game into a slideshow. But luckily we were able to snap a few pictures of the encounter. I may have been operating at the speed of a PowerPoint presentation, but I wasn't gonna let a little hardware get in the way of me and my sick bling. So I caught our first shiny like an absolute gigachat and nicknamed it Givra, which is the French word for wyvern. Don't ever try to say that I'm not cultured. And with our new friend, we left the cave. Now that we had our first member of Team Shiny, I sprinted over to fight the first gym leader, Katie, but not before abandoning our gross, disgusting, horrifying regular Quaxley. Normally in a ridiculously hard challenge like this one, I'd wait until I had at least 2 Pokemon to challenge a gym leader, especially given the fact that I had just spent so much time getting our first team member. Also considering that Dragon-type Pokemon are notoriously terrible in their early evolutions, but I had a little trick up my sleeve that had me feeling pretty confident. You see, at the little TM crafter at the little Pokemon Center over here, you can actually craft a little TM for a little move called Fire Fang, which our little friend Gibble can actually learn. And the educated among you will know this move is super effective against Katie's bugs. To add to that, Gibble actually has a pretty decent attack stat, all things considered. So I was feeling pretty confident that we should be able to cook Katie without any problems. And as soon as I get into the battle, I knew I placed my confidence in the right place. Gibble 2-shots Nimble and Tarantula, only taking a little bit of damage in the process, but then Katie sends out her big, bad, terrifying ace, who may look cute and cuddly, but in reality is a horrible, destructive monster. Luckily, Gibble's able to trade it out and take home the W against this little guy. And with Katie bowing to the absolute power of shiny Daddy Q, we pick up our first gym badge no problem. As we move on and continue our journey to become the shiniest dragon user in Pokemon history, we accidentally came across a shiny Scatterbug. Move out of the way! I name him Crime because it would be criminal to keep him, being that he's not a dragon type, and also because I'm wanted for tax fraud in 30 different countries, but we don't talk about that. Anyway, after that unfortunate use of shiny luck, we box Mr. Bugman and travel the open plains with none other than the Stony Cliff Titan in our crosshairs. Alright, this might seem crazy, but I was feeling lazy, so it's time to fight another boss with only a single Pokemon. Cloth's Rock Smashes were doing pretty good damage against our shiny boy, but luckily Gibble recently learned Dig from the TM I got earlier, so he could avoid the 40-ton boulders easily. And like a proud parent in my kid's soccer game, I watch as my Gibble uppercuts Mr. Krabs twice, ending phase 1 of the fight. After using Monster Reborn to heal Gibble back to full, we challenge Stabbo Crabbo to another fight and take the dub with an assist from Arven. With the first Titan defeated and Herba Mystica acquired, I decided to try to catch another shiny before taking on the next gym leader, you know, just as a little bit of an insurance policy. I mean, it's not like I don't believe in you, Gibble. I know you're capable of doing it, but hey, don't give me that look. Didn't mean it. Come on. Come back. Anyway, at this point I headed over to South Province Area 4 to get me a Goomy. After making my signature tomato, bell pepper, avocado, onion, and hamburger sandwich, we continue our hunt for the second member of Team Shiny, which basically means I proceeded to walk in circles more than a Gamer Rant article, and after a surprisingly short hunt, our shiny Goomy finally appeared. Alright, come to Papa. Wait, level 19? You have gotta be kidding me. The Pokemon that I just spent an eternity trying to get was completely unusable because Brassius has a level cap of 17. But we catch it anyway and nickname it Terrask, which was fitting because in mythology, a Terrask is a goofy, slow-moving lump of a dragon, just like Goomy. Unfortunately, our newest team member was over-leveled, meaning we'd have to take on the artist in residence with only a single Pokemon yet again. But the good thing was, I had another trick up my sleeve, and that trick was
the power of the sun.
At first, when I was thinking through it, I thought I'd just need really good RNG to get through this fight, but that's not really a strategy, now is it? So I put a little bit more thought into it until I had an idea. It turns out all I really needed was something to boost my attack, so I taught Gibble our Sunny Day TM and headed into the fight. We take out Brassius' first Pokemon with a couple Fire Fangs, then proceed to set up the Sun against Smoliv to boost the damage of our Fire-type attacks for the rest of the fight. After one-shotting the tiny dumb little baby Olive with another Fire Fang, we face off against the huge menace that is Brassius' Sudowoodo. Not only is this thing a huge offensive threat with Rock-type attacks that we don't resist, and just generally high attack, but it's also a physical tank with a super high defense stat, so this was gonna be tough. One Fire Fang takes out about half of its HP as it goes for a Trailblaze, which boosts its speed and does pretty significant damage. Luckily, we resist this attack, but what we don't resist is its next move, Rock Throw, which puts me into cardiac arrest as it leaves us at just 1 HP. I hoped and prayed that I didn't get the 5% miss on our Fire Fang as we fired back on this turn, and today we have been blessed because the attack connects and secures our second gym badge. That was way too close. But with that victory, the level cap is raised, meaning we finally unlock our Goomy for the rest of the run. Welcome to the team. With our newest gelatinous friend joining the squad, we make our way over to challenge the Open Sky Titan, aka Big Bombardier. But to increase our chances against Twitter's former mascot, I needed to go get my hands on a very important TM, Rock Slide. To do this, I had to go over to a hill in East Province Area 3 and hit an insanely precise jump to another cliff, but luckily I'm a god gamer and hit it first try. The reason why I went all the way out of my way to go get this is because at this point our team consists of two tiny little balls of dragon, so we needed all the help we could get. We teach the Rock Slide TM to Gibble, then head into the fight. Gibble's able to tank through the first phase and take it out with a couple Rock Slides, then get big damage on the second phase, but it ends up being too low to risk, so we swap to Goomy, who tanks a pluck as it switches in and clutches it out on 1 HP. Oh my goodness. At this point, all we need is for Arvin to actually do something. Please, dear God, do not play us. Yes, Arvin, yes! With 2 Titans under our belt, we decide to continue the shiny hunt for Big Lizard number 3, Dreepy. So I go find a nice peaceful spot by a lake where this little sneaky guy is known to hang out. As I began hunting, I alternated between Ghost-type sandwiches in the daytime and Dragon-type sandwiches at night to avoid any Mistrevises spawning while the sun was down. I also used a new spicy tech here to help me catch our third shiny boy. Picnic resetting. You see, when you open a picnic in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, it resets the spawns in the area and allows you to generate new Pokemon in the area who have a chance of being shiny. This completely changes the game for shiny hunts. So by using this ancient technique combined with the power of an avocado hamburger sandwich, we're able to welcome our shiny Dreepy to the team in no time flat. We nickname this funny little guy Diplocaulus, then head on our way. Now, normally at this point, I'd start with Team Star, but to be honest, I wasn't even close to ready for Hakamo because unevolved dragon types are extremely trash. So instead, we continue the shiny dragon hunt, and this time, I wanted to get my hands on a Bagon. After I walked over to a mysterious cave in East Province Area 3 and made my signature dragon sandwich, I prepared myself to kinda break the game. So like usual, I set up and tore down my picnic over and over, but this time I decided to stand on a very specific tile in the cave. And when you stand on this specific tile in this specific cave after eating this specific sandwich, Bagon will start coming out of the walls like an army of ants. Huge shout out to KB Pokemon for this method, you should definitely check him out. Usually when you farm here, you have a chance of getting Bagons at level 17 to 28, but almost all of what I was getting were levels 25 to 28, so I thought I'd put my Bagon search on pause to look for a different shiny instead to avoid any accidental overleveled catches. So this time we decided to hit the open fields and hunt for Cyclizar. After a quick detour over to East Province 2, we find ourselves in the midst of a mass outbreak, and Cyclizars were absolutely everywhere. Which after defeating 70 of the 100 mass outbreak Pokemon that spawn here, our shiny chances were elevated, and this hunt was really just a walk in the park. And before long, Team Shiny Dragon had its fourth member, Cristatus. With the powerful single evolution Cyclizar on the team, I almost had the confidence to take on the first Team Starbase. I say almost because before I could face Mr. Soprano, I needed to power up my Cyclizar just a little bit more. So I decided to head over and get the Hyper Voice TM, which is a very powerful special move that would be pretty effective against Hakamo. The issue is that the only Hyper Voice TM in the game is on the side of a mountain that is not normally accessible until later in the game. So if I wanted to actually get there, I had to get a little bit creative. But if you're experienced enough in this game, you'll know that anything is possible on Miraidon. You see, if you position your ride Pokemon so that he's facing backwards and hit the jump button right as you hit the ground, you can climb extremely steep cliffs without any issue. So by performing my movement glitch and making Summoning Salt proud, we're able to get our hands on Hyper Voice and teach it to Cyclizar. With my newest upgrades, I thought the fight would be a cinch. But it seemed I was in for an uphill battle because before we even got to Hakamo, we almost lost Goomy to the guards blocking the door. But eventually we're able to get inside, roleplay as an exterminator, and challenge the mob boss in residence to a 1v1. And finally we're able to let Cyclizar off the leash, terrastalize it, and absolutely shred Hakamo's first Pokemon with a boosted Hyper Voice. The Terra Orb combined with Hyper Voice was doing insane damage. I was beginning to think it would be a Terra sweep and that this challenge would be easy, but I couldn't have been more wrong. No! What have I done? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our first death of this challenge. Thankfully, we're able to clean up Hakamo's lawnmower, but this loss was still devastating. This was a pretty big setback, but I wasn't gonna let it keep me down. So after boxing my Cyclizar, I taxi over to Levincia, where I completely decimate Nemona without even terrastalizing. Next, after getting past Iono's tier 3 subscribers, we head back to the Pokemon Center where, oh, Gibble's evolving. Our shiny boy had become even more shiny, but I couldn't waste a second because it was Iono time. We show off our newly evolved Guiver against her Wattrel and take the opportunity to boost our attack with the Swords Dance on the first turn. With our boosted stats, one super effective Rock Slide is enough to take out Tweety Bird. Next in is Luxio, who goes down to a Bulldoze despite dropping our attack with an Intimidate. From here, Iono sends in her Belly Bolt, who gets a little bit of damage on us as we terrastalize and go for another Swords Dance to bring our attack back up. Then we swiftly dispatch this round boy with a Bulldoze on our way to face Iono's ace. It was now a battle of shininess again, and I actually started to sweat against Miss Magis's Hex. It brought us low enough that I actually started to feel the pressure. But not to worry, on our very next turn, we cut through Miss Magis like she's freaking butter and finish out the fight. So now that we're done with our Twitch streamer arc, we return 5,000 feet underground to give the shiny Bagon hunt another go. I used the exact same strategy as before, picnic resetting while enjoying my $3 BLT avocado sandwich supreme, but the game was not going easy on me. At this point, I'd been here for hours and hours, and being that I still had quite a few bosses to completely obliterate, I decided to leave for the time being. I can't believe this. You're telling me that shinies are rare or something? Anyway, we meet back with our college professor in disguise who joins us for the next Team Star raid. After doing my best Clash of Clans impression, we come face to face with Mela, leader of Team Star's Firebase, who gets completely steamrolled by our shiny Gabite. After once again beating a raid boss with a single Pokemon, I try my luck again in the Bagon Cave, but guess what happened? I was either a complete idiot or my luck was just absolutely awful because I hunted for forever and still ended up with nothing. So yet again, I abandoned the cave and decided to take on another boss before wasting more time here. So I motorcycled down to the lurking Steel Titan nearby and gave him a go. Thanks to the Flamethrower TM that I was able to snag and teach to Gabite before this fight, this was a complete walk in the park. We even managed to remember that this guy is immune to ground type attacks and didn't waste any time healing him up. We spammed our way through the fight like a Korean fried rice, then it was time to head back to the cave, I guess. I was seriously getting frustrated at this point. Bagon just completely hated me and refused to spawn. I was even getting so bored that I started getting creative with my sandwich making skills, stacking all my ingredients on top of each other like it was freaking Jenga. And after a bunch more time spent hunting, we just didn't get the shiny. After so many hours spent waiting, I decided it was probably best to just get on with my life. So we headed towards the exit of the cave and wait. What is that? Shiny! Shiny! And just like that, we had finally caught our shiny Bagon. We nicknamed our new friend Mickey, and now we can finally move on. And Kofu's up next as far as gym leaders are concerned, but before we take him on, we level up Mickey until it evolves into a Shelgon, then we head in to take on Kofu. With the power of Dragon Terra type and a Swords Dance setup, I was able to get hard carried on the back of Gabite to another easy W, turning Mr. Seafood into a delicious stew in no time flat. Up next after Kofu is the Team Star Poison Base, which I personally think is the most difficult fight in the entire game, especially in a Nuzlocke like this one. So we make our preparations, then head in to fight Atticus. Thankfully, Shelgon was able to learn Dragon Dance, so we set up our attack and speed boost as we get hit by his Skuntank's Toxic. But our Pechaberry cures our poison, allowing us to continue our setup. We go for a couple more Dragon Dances, then Terrastalize and smack this skunk with a couple Dragon Claws to take it out. But unfortunately, we end up getting poisoned by another Toxic along the way. From here, we're able to one-shot his Muck, then swap to Gabite as he brings in his little baby Revavroom. We take a couple Iron Heads, but end up taking this guy out with a single dig. Then finally, he's down to just his big boy Revavroom. We take a chance and set up a Swords Dance here, even though we're pretty low on HP, and that pays off big as we survive long enough to get a boosted, super effective dig on this big boy. Then on the next turn, whoo! Oh my god, that was close. And finally finish this big guy off with yet another dig. After running that quick, totally not sketchy errand over at Team Star's Poison Base, I prepare myself for the next shiny hunt. This time I'm looking for a shiny Axew, so I charged back over to the open fields with a picnic basket in hand and made myself another abomination of a sandwich, again boosting dragon type spawn rates. And I guess at this point my luck was turning around because this ended up being a super quick hunt, and in basically no time flat, we got ourselves another shiny. We nickname our new friend Jeremy, then we use our newfound powers to tear through Laria and Nimona. The shiny buff was unreal because we just ended up one-shotting everything with only Gabite. And as a delicious icing on top, my Goomy and Axew ended up evolving into a Sliggoo and a Fracture after this battle. After showing those wimps the wrath of shiny Daddy Q, I continue my adventure of becoming obscenely overpowered by flying up to Porto Morinda. This time, the shiny hunt continued with a search for a Noibat. So I picked up some ingredients at a store nearby, fast traveled to a cave, and made another sandwich to increase our chances of seeing a dragon, and eventually I was able to track down and catch a shiny Noibat, making my shiny team even stronger. After my spelunking escapade, I realize it's been a bit since my last gym battle, so I make my way over to fight Rhyme, the 6th gym leader. At this point, I wanted to keep my shiny streak going, so we wasted no time and slapped Rhyme with our super high attack combo of Gabite and Fracture. No, I mean we literally slapped her Pokemon, look. Those dark hands were way more than she could handle, so soon after we started, we were able to set our sights on our next shiny hunt, Dratini. I begin my great Dratini quest up on a mountain nearby, and after speedrunning to South Province Area 6 and locating the Sacred Dragon Pond, I set up another picnic like usual, and after using another Dragon Sandwich to boost me some spawns, I spend a decent chunk of time idling and looking before I find our next shiny boy. I name him after the Korean dragon Amugi, then after my newest friend Amugi shatters my expectations and evolves into a Dragonair, we go to celebrate this momentous occasion with another Titan Stomp. Out in the Asado Desert, we crush Phase 1 of Mr. Iron Treads, then during Phase 2, Arven's disgusting non-shiny Pokemon gets KO'd like a little wimp, so we have to carry the entire rest of the fight on our own. After taking the dubski against the Pokemon from the future, we get the Sour Herba Mystica, meaning at this point we're almost done with the Path of Titans. But I'm all about that grind, so I can't chill out for too long. After channeling my inner speedrunner, I make my way over to challenge the 7th Gym Leader, Tulip. But before we can continue the game, we're given a jump scare by Nemona, who wants to fight us again. I still got my shiny Drip though, so the battle wasn't that bad. I was a little scared though because Tarisk was getting absolutely hammered by her ace Skeledirge's Torch songs, but at 19 HP, our resistance to its fire-type attacks comes in clutch, and we squeak out a win with Dragon Pulse. Next up is the actual gym battle against Tulip, who luckily for us wasn't nearly as hard as Nemona was. I used Gabite to completely dominate here, one-shotting basically everything in our path after setting up with, you guessed it, Swords Dances. As Pathra's psychic attacks were kinda concerning, but Gabite was just a complete baller, and we take our victory without having to sweat too much here. And you would not believe this, but we celebrate the penultimate gym leader's downfall with a triple evolution. What? Gabite evolves into Garchomp, Jeremy evolves into Haxorus, and Acelia evolves into Noivern. With this huge power spike, I decided to waste absolutely no time. Actually, wait, I decided to waste a bunch of time getting another shiny. This time I'm looking at the brand spankin' new Gen 9 pseudo-legendary dragon, Frigibax. So we make our way up to the North Pole and make ourselves some lunch, then picnic reset galore. I ended up making dozens of sandwiches just to catch this one Pokemon, spending more money on ingredients than I ever have in this run so far. It was absolutely crazy. After traversing the frozen wasteland for a very long time, shiny Frigibax was finally added to our collection. I nickname him Tito, and with Frosty the shiny dragon snowman officially part of the team, I go to get, another shiny. This time I wanted an Applin, and lucky for me, getting a shiny Applin isn't too hard, but it was gonna take a little bit more brain power than walking around with a $5 footlong. So to do this, I went to the Tag Tree Thicket near Atticus's base and found a tree covered in graffiti. After that, I had to choose my tallest Pokemon to auto-battle so it could filter out all the gross, rotten Applins from the glorious shinies. So we used Dratini, who's able to actually target the Applins all the way up in the tree, and usually I'd have to make a sandwich here, but I still had a level 3 buff left over from farming Tito, so I could literally just AFK here for this hunt. It was fantastic. Huge shout out to Pandora Games for this method, by the way. After God knows how long spent apple farming, I actually don't know, I literally walked away and came back to a shiny, we finally get our next shiny Dragon Boy, who I nickname Hydrapple. Hydrapple is technically unobtainable in this run because it involves beating the base game to unlock the evolution, so I figured I might as well just pretend that I had a Hydrapple anyway. After I did a little EV training, Tito and my Apple Boy both evolved, which meant I was ready for the final gym leader in Pokemon Violet, Grusha. Even though we have the most powerful and impressive shiny Pokemon in the game, Garchomp, and he's basically been carrying us through every single fight if you've been paying attention, we couldn't use him against Grusha because it was just too risky against the Ice type. But luckily we had just added Tito to the team, who at least partially resists Ice type attacks, so we made our preparations, then headed into the fight, and my concerns were immediately validated as Frostmoth's bug buzzes started shredding Tito right at the start. But we managed to set up a Swords Dance, then one-shot Frostmoth with an Iron Head. From here we alternate Protect with Iron Head to get a little more healing from leftovers as we one-shot Beartic. Then we go for a little more attack boost against the Titan, which leads to an extremely close call with the Liquidation, but we don't talk about that. After surviving, we finally get to Mr. Edgelord's Altaria, who uses a Hurricane, and oh my god, I'm alive, Tito, you are insane! After surviving, we're able to give Altaria a taste of its own medicine and officially defeat the final gym leader in Pokemon Violet, earning us our last gym badge. After a celebratory evolution from our boys Dreepy, Goodra, and Shelgon, I realize I've been getting tunnel vision by only focusing on gym battles, so I decide to do another Team Star raid. But this time we have Ortega in our crosshairs. This is another super sketchy battle since Ortega specializes in fairy types, which were literally specifically put into the game because Dragon was too powerful back in the day. And I could definitely see why they put this in the game because look at how sick our dragons look destroying these fairy idiots. Anyway, we enter the battle and decide to give our newly evolved Goodra a chance to shine. In preparation for this fight, we ended up switching its Terra type over to Steel and teaching it Terra Blast to be able to take advantage of its resistance to Fairy types and super effective attack. We blast our way through his first 3 Pokemon with a damage boost from our Life Orb, then take a massive hit from his Ace Revavroom. And that was way too risky for my taste, so we bring in Salamence, who drops its attack with an Intimidate. Then we're able to swap to Garchomp and battle through confusion to land a couple super effective poison jabs to just barely bring the fight home. Wow, that was certainly way tougher than I would have liked. After taking this little boy and his toy car to the junkyard, I continue my quest for world domination by fighting another G-rated crime lord. But not before taking a quick detour over to the Pokemon Center to evolve Mugi and Tito to their maxed out forms. With my newest power-up, it was time to take on the final Team Star member, Aerie. I hadn't really got a chance to use Mickey yet, so I gave him a chance to shine in this fight. After tanking a couple poison jabs from Toxicroak and spamming Dragon Dance until I dealt infinite damage, we defeat the last Team Star bully with a single shiny boy. At this point, I had a taste for blood, and I wanted to keep the boss rush going. So right after my victory against Miss Facepaint, I ran over to Castle Royal Lake to beat the final Titan Dondozo. Gudra's lightning was a perfect counter against Bubble Bass, and even in Phase 2, he couldn't do anything against me. So I finish out the fight with a couple giant laser beams and complete the Path of Titans like a shiny boss. I took some time to meditate on my successes after my great achievement and realized that I still wanted more. I didn't want to just be a shiny boss, I wanted to be a shiny god. So I began looking for the final Pokemon to complete my collection. A perfect cap to a Dragon Gym Leader's PC boxes. Tatsugiri! So I go back to my everlasting sandwich addiction, making the best Daddy Q special you've ever seen. And after finding a mass outbreak of these little fishes, it was only a matter of time before I awakened my full power. Before my very eyes, there it lay. Like a glorious hidden gem in a vast ocean of mediocrity. A beautiful flower in a vast desert of garbage. My sweet, sweet shiny boy. With our final shiny collected, I began mentally preparing myself for the final gauntlet of opponents that we would need to take on in this challenge, the Elite Four. These were a group of Paldea's best trainers, but if there was anyone who could best them, it's Shiny Daddy Q. It would be me, right? Yeah, me. Anyway, I make my way over to the job interview, pass with flying colors, and find myself face to face with none other than my first opponent, Rika. This time I thought I'd use my boy Hydrapple because Giga Drain is crazy good against her entire lineup. After going full vampire mode, I managed to one-shot Whiscash, Donphan, and Dugtrio, and after taking some decent damage from Camerupt, we managed to make it to Rika's ace. Lucky for me though, I'm still healing more than she can damage me, so after spamming Giga Drain a couple more times, we annihilate her Clodsire. Poppy the Toddler was my second opponent, so I go for Garchomp against Caparaja. The type advantage was absolutely carrying me here, and we get through the Metal Elephant turn uno. Next up was Corviknight, and we end up taking a little damage from Brave Bird, but I wasn't too worried because I had a Swords Dance Fire Fang combo up my sleeve. I use exactly the same strategy against Bronzong, knocking him out before he can freaking breathe, and we use Earthquake to crush Magnezone. Oh, what's that? You got your little bunny rabbit with a 40-ton hammer? Nope. After absolutely desecrating Poppy, next up was everyone's favorite depressed attorney, Larry. His lineup was going to be different than our gym battle earlier, so I had to be a little careful this time around. I decided it's time to show Shiny Goomy some love, so I send him out against Larry's Tropius, and our fire attacks burn Mr. Tree Dinosaur to a crisp. After taking out Altaria with the final flash from Dragon Ball Z, I swapped to Giver because Terrask is starting to get pretty low. Just because I was extra nervous here, I used my Terra Orb on Garchomp, which was absolutely the right choice because we absolutely slapped Staraptor and Oricorio. Now we were finally up against the big CEO's ace, but he doesn't put up too much of a fight either because we end the fight on half HP. With Larry fired, we were up against Hassel, a fellow Dragon Trainer. I had to take this one more seriously than any other battle. I wasn't gonna get shown up by some ugly non-shinies. So after doing some off-camera calculations, my master plan was set into motion. He leads with Noivern and I lead with my ace Garchomp. The biggest risk here was if Noivern got a lucky crit on me. Luckily, I don't get one shot, but if I did, the run was completely in shambles. After my health is cut in half, I'm the one who lands a lucky crit, immediately putting me at an advantage. As soon as he brings out his dumb, not shiny apple, I terrastalize my Garchomp and use Dragon Claw one-shotting like usual. I do the same against Dragalge and Haxorus, and as soon as Mr. Dragon Wannabe sends out his ace, I show him what a real dragon looks like and shred through his strongest Pokemon like it's child's play. After asserting my dominance as the strongest dragon trainer in the region, I make my way over to take the champion's crown and officially become the strongest, shiniest dragon trainer the world has ever seen. We take the elevator up, and soon my ultimate foe was staring me right in the face. It was Tarisk versus his Pathra. Gita goes for a reflect like a noob against Goodra, so I decide to laser beam the giant chicken out of existence. Next up is Gita's Go-Goat, who almost kills Tarisk. I thought I was gonna straight up lose here, but shiny Daddy Q never runs away. So I double down, terastalizing my Goodra and hitting Gita's dumb goat with the burning embers of the underworld. I was not messing around anymore. I even managed to one-shot Avalugg on my next turn with a Terra Blast. Next turn Veluza comes out and I decide to give Tarisk a break, so I bring out Hydrapple. Liquidation barely does any damage at all, and after only a single Giga Drain, we make it to King Gambit. I hadn't really given Jeremy a chance to see much action up to this point, so I wanted to give my boy a shot. But oh my god, Jeremy, do not die on me! Woo! Yeah, that's right. Finally, Gita was on her last Pokemon Glimmora. With the strongest trainer in the region backed into a corner, I reminisced on my incredible journey so far and everything that it took to get us here. I mean, we were seriously strong, and it's thanks to all our Pokemon's hard work, except Quaxly, that we were able to get to this point. As I watched Gita finally release her ace, I figured the only fitting end to this was for me to release my own ace, the very first shiny I caught on my adventure. Go, Givra! After tanking Glimmora's super effective Dazzling Gleam, I realized I only had one more move before getting KO'd by a second attack. So I put everything I had into my next move, a move that would decide everything. And finally, the champion badge was mine. So after fighting the strongest trainers in the world with the power of shinies, I've proved once and for all that yes, shinies are better than normal Pokemon, and you can become a shiny dragon gym leader in Pokemon Violet. If you like this video, make sure to check out this run I did of Pokemon Scarlet, where I only use shiny legendaries. Thanks for watching, till next time.